So thank you for being to this session. We start immediately with a presentation by Susan and Peter Glaser from Glaser and Associates, Eugene, Oregon, USA. So they are going to present us a contribution entitled Breakthrough Communication in a Hybrid World, Amplifying Interactive Experiential Learning. And again, here we work and we are going to listen to a contribution related to evidence-based hybrid learning initiative that strengthens organizational outcomes by boosting communication in individuals and teams. And this is grounded in over 35 years of published research honored by the International Association of Business Communication, so congratulations on that, for bridging communication theory and practice. That's what I think all of us are very interested in. And as researchers and professors of experiential outcome-based learning for 40 years, Susan and Peter really can show how it is possible to power experiential learning in a virtual context, both synchronously and asynchronously, with different kinds of courses and workshops. So, the floor to both of you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Well, hello. Thank you, thank you. Hold it, see if it's worth it in the end. I think it will be. Peter Glaser, and we have been so excited to present this material to you. It's our first chance to really unveil that with a real live audience. So as the introductor said, we are from Eugene, Oregon, though I was born and raised right down the road in Brooklyn, New York. Susan is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We met at the Pennsylvania State University where we did our doctoral programs together. So we currently live in Eugene, Oregon because it's the home of the University of Oregon. This is where we got our first faculty positions. And as it turned out, it was our last faculty positions. We took one look at Eugene, Oregon, and we said, whatever it takes, we are staying here. If you've never been there, it's a beautiful spot of the world.
So, over our years at the University of Oregon, we have taught communication both in the College of Arts and Sciences as well as a required series for MBAs in the College of Business. So we have had the ability to see our field as a liberal art and also a professional series of courses. Now, in that period of time, our research has driven everything we've done. Our research has always looked at what are the micro communication behaviors that really comprise this thing called leadership communication mastery. What is it, and what are the behaviors that are really part of it? We have, in the mid-'80s, including our work at the University of Oregon, where we've been, by the way, for 33 years, we started our own consulting practice. And so we've had the opportunity to live our professional lives, both as academics and as practitioners. And so what we bring to you today is that story, that evolution, and what we have created, especially when COVID hit and changed everything.
So it was March 4th, 2020. And we just arrived home from our 19th year working in New Zealand, speaking to audiences there. And it was a different world. And we were at a choice point. We had a series of conferences, and the first one was with a group called the Pew Charitable Trust. And they said to us, we have to cancel the conference because of COVID, but we'll do it if you will do it virtually. And can you do that? And Susan and I, both without a moment's hesitation, said, absolutely, we can do it. We hung up the phone and looked at each other and said, what does that mean to do it virtual? And this sent us on a journey. We had 21 days to figure it all out for this first conference. But at the end of the 21, and by the way, I have to say, in all honesty, we rode this fine line between abject fear and exhilaration as we were beginning to figure things out. But at the end, we really thought we had a product that could work. And since Pew Research is about research, we really took a look at everything that we did along the way.
So the science of teaching has always been our specialty. We've always looked at pedagogy, or specifically andragogy, the study of teaching adult learners. And so in that time, we focused on, that was always our beacon, that was always our North Star. Pedagogy and data always drove our foundation. So now the question was, how do we take everything we know about adult learning and apply it to this new virtual environment? That's what we did during COVID. Now, one of the things we'll be showing you today is how we have adapted this, and we want to do three things with you in our time together. The first thing we want to do is introduce you briefly to how we look at communication as a series of micro behaviors, because that's what makes it teachable. Then we want to show you how we approach pedagogy in the hybrid virtual world. And we want to give you a demonstration of what our virtual interactive practice actually looks like. And finally, we want to show you how we have designed and conformed all of it to a fully virtual landscape. So, let's get started.
So first, let us show you what we mean by breakthrough conflict. It really has three components, three subject areas of study.
So when we talk about breakthrough communication, that's our term for a three-core sequence, because in our research and in our teaching, we have really come to believe that in order to master communication, there are three arenas of mastery. The first one is breakthrough conflict. Breakthrough conflict is really a playbook for navigating the most challenging conversations of life. That's one of the three core skill sets that we believe to be mastered.
And the second is called hardwiring teamwork, a blueprint for creating inclusive, engaged, productive teams. And the third is persuasion and influence, creating messages that inspire and motivate people to action.
So with those as our core content, and by the way, for those of you who didn't get a handout, if you are here on site, we have full handouts for you. And if you're virtual and the virtual gods are with us, they should be in the chat right now as we speak. So if you didn't get a handout, please be sure you do get. Actually, if you didn't get one, let us know, and maybe Jacob can help distribute them. Thanks, Jacob. So those then are the three main content areas. Let's talk about how we teach that to adult learners, how we shape this kind of communication mastery. The first thing that we do, and those of you who are deeply into learning theory, adult learning theory, this will resonate fully with what you know. We begin with direct instruction, and that means we need to somehow share with people what are the core communication behaviors that make a difference, that allow you to break through conflict, that allow you to hardwire teams, and allow you to persuade and influence people. What are those core behaviors? The second step, behavior modeling. Peter and I model in two ways. At the beginning, we model, this is not the way you want to be, the negative model. Then we do direct instruction, and then we model, try it this way, you'll see it will work better. So that's how we incorporate modeling.
And you'll see a little piece of that shortly.
The third phase is scripting and peer feedback, where every single person who attends one of these virtual programs actually has an opportunity to apply the skill we're teaching to a real customized situation, because part of our learning is that we work with a design team and customize scenarios so our content can be applied to their life. Every program we do looks different in that way because all of the scenarios are customized and people script and get feedback on their scripting.
So the people are always doing two things in our programs. They're both learning new skills and they're also satisfying and solving real problems.
The fourth is real live practice. And that can be done virtually or in person. And over the last several years, we have discovered that we are keen about virtual practice. We believe the learning is stronger and deeper virtually than on site in person. And we can talk to you about it over the next few days why we believe that. So these are the four main steps. And for those of you who are into adult learning theory, virtual practice is also called behavior rehearsal. Let's talk about what we're going to focus on today. Of all of the courses that we teach, we decided to choose Breakthrough Conflict to give you a sample of what our learning looks like. So that's where we're going to be putting our energy in right now. And let me start by saying, Peter and I are deep believers in the power of conflict, but we totally get that most people aren't, right? I mean, you've experienced conflict, I'm sure, as unproductive. It damages relationships. It's unpleasant. It makes problems worse. So it doesn't take long for people to say, if there's conflict around, I'm not. And one of the things that's the hallmark of our Breakthrough Conflict is when conflict isn't working, it's very often because people are unconscious as they navigate through it.
So when they become conscious, as they do as our instruction unfolds, you can expect three rather remarkable outcomes. Here they are. Number one, they can solve an important problem. Number two, they can strengthen a key relationship. And three, they can even deepen trust. And this is the bar we hold for all of the scenes and all of the work that we do on real issues. That's the bar. This is what they should achieve at the end of that conflict.
Now, there's an unfortunate myth about conflict, and that is that conflict means people yelling and shouting at each other.
It is that, right?
Right. I would include that in conflict, but it's way more than that. Conflict is any time you want someone to do something and they don't, or someone wants you to do something and you don't. So that is the arena of conflict that we are in. And within that, we customize scenarios. So we say to our design team, tell us about the kinds of conversations that people need to be having. Tell us about the kinds of conversations that you wish the leaders in your group would be having. And we base our curriculum around that, and we're going to actually show you how we do that now. So one of the situations that we will share with you, and we chose this, we were trying to think of what kind of a situation should we model for this group of people who we haven't met yet.
So this one that we're going to do, we have seen recur so many times with our clients. And so this is the sample we'll put before you. And in this scene, I'm going to be a vice president, and Susan will be one of my senior directors. And on this particular day, she has had it up to here. She is so upset with me. What she's about to do might be a career-limiting move, but she doesn't care. She has to get this off her chest. And you are all just flies on the wall out there, and when we are finished, we're going to ask you a few questions and help us debrief this.
So let me tell you what we'll ask you at the end. We'll ask you, what went wrong? How did this conversation go downhill so far, so fast? And we will try to figure out what that is and show you how that ties in with where our virtual learning continues. But for now, just sit back and enjoy the argument. What do you want to be doing when I come in, Peter?
I'm going to be, I'll be on my computer, at my standing desk in my office. I really do have one of those, by the way. This is take one. Remember, we're going to do the first bad one, then we're going to do some direct instruction, and then show you the good model. First, this is bad.
Pete.
Yes, Susan, what seems to be the problem?
Well, I can tell you're a really busy guy, and you know what, Pete? I am busy too. So how about if I just get right into the middle of it and I don't take up much of either of our time? You are sabotaging my leadership in this company, okay? There it is, straight out.
Susan, with all due respect, I see your lips moving and I hear sound coming out, but right now I get no meaning. I'm sabotaging you, Susan. You're one of my key managers. Well, let me finish. You need to perform at a high level. Sabotage makes no sense.
Okay.
What are you talking
All right,
about?
so you're undermining my relationship with my team by letting a constant stream of people who are upset with me to moan and gripe to you.
So
you don't send them back,
what
you
this
don't
is
bring
about.
me in, you don't even tell me it's happening.
Susan, have you ever asked yourself the question why your people feel a need to complain to me, why they're not going directly to you with issues about you?
Yes, I have.
And?
Don't take this personally. You have to be everyone's savior. You have to be the one riding in on the white horse and making everything work for people.
Susan, the reason they don't talk to you is they're afraid of you. They tell me they try to ask you a simple little question. You make them feel really stupid. Please let me finish. You make them feel stupid, and at some point they stop coming in. And I have this open door policy. If people need to come to speak to me, I'm going to be speaking. As a matter of fact, you should be thanking me. Because were your people not having a place to let out the steam, I don't know what would happen.
May I speak?
Speak.
When you promoted me into this position, you told me that my mission was to take this underperforming group and turn it into something different, that people didn't have a sense of urgency, that people would come and go as they wanted. That's what I did. You judge me by any metric that you set, and I either met it or surpassed it. Now you're telling me I need to win a popularity contest once that's happened.
Susan, there is a huge gap between winning a popularity contest and basic human decency. Susan, we have values in this company, and these people that you're managing just are not happy.
Forget it. I knew this is exactly what was going to happen.
You knew what was going to happen.
I knew I was going to come in here, try to share my feelings with you. I knew you were going to get completely defensive.
Hey, I did not get defensive. I stood here, I listened to the stuff you're putting out, I just disagree, that's all.
Well, then let me say I tried, because I'm the kind of person who believes if you are having an issue with someone, you should talk to that person. I can see it won't work with you, and I just want to go on record as saying I have no choice but to go to HR and to tell them you are creating a hostile work environment for me.
That's really terrifying. I mean, I'm really scared. Susan, go to HR, go to the president of the company. I don't care.
Okay.
We'll see who looks more like an idiot.
Fine.
All right?
Yeah.
Good.
I want to really thank you for the opportunity to have this dialogue.
No, I've enjoyed it.
I know how you value open communication, and I just want to say that having had this chance, I feel heard and understood and ready to go back and be part of the team, so thanks.
Sue, wait, before you go, let me say one more thing. My door is always open.
And off they go into the rest of their lives together. Now, before we debrief
We've been married a long time. This so helps. You wouldn't believe it.
Let me just say that when we do this virtually, we first interview people, find out what they're arguing about, and then record that so that when we're doing our direct instruction, we insert the recording of an issue very much like this. And then we ask the question, what went wrong? What did you see that took this conversation down? So let me ask that to you now. What did you see that took this down?
And those of you who are in remotely, if you want to put something in the chat.
Jacob or Walker will send your commentary to us.
But let us ask you, if you had to do an analysis of what you just observed, what would you say is one thing that took this conversation downhill?
Yes, please.
The language you use when you accuse each other, you have to, you are.
Exactly.
I
so
hear
the
that.
language I used was, you're sabotaging, you're undermining, you
Big
let all these
finger,
people go.
like pointing at me.
Yes.
Please.
I was just going to say there was no dialogue. I mean, that's not a dialogue.
Right, dialogue defined as a search for truth, a search
Or an
for
interaction.
our understanding, meaning. It
You
wasn't
are so
there.
right. It was almost like, right, he had his...
One-sided, like pointing fingers at each other.
Exactly. Exactly. So...
And I think you'll agree there was name-calling, insults, sarcasm, right? This thing just spun down and down and down.
And then let me pause and tell you, so when we're doing this virtually, this is the first chance when everybody's in the big main room that people actually kind of raise their hand tentatively or put it in the chat and say, well, I thought Susan was using a lot of accusative. So this is the beginning of the interactive engagement. We show the negative model and we ask people to talk to us about what's not working. Then we introduce, remember we said it begins with direct instruction. So we want to share with you a very abbreviated form of how we do that direct virtual instruction. What do we believe are the key core skills, those micro behaviors that people need to know how to do if they're really going to break through conflict? So let's go there now. Conscious conversations to us begin exactly, I don't know your name. I will meet people as this conference goes along. What is your name? Yeah.
It's Pia.
Pia. Pia said it. It was filled with you accusative language, and it didn't have any I feeling language. So, step one is to have an opener where you get the person's permission to have the conversation and then to share your feelings. Now, I know there's a lot of talk in the communication field about feeling sharing, but we have really identified what it really means to have emotional intelligence. In this case, emotional literacy. 5 tips for emotional literacy. We're going to go through this quickly. Let us know if you want to talk more later. First of all, combative feelings frighten, and unfortunately, those are the feelings. When people learn, oh, maybe I shouldn't say you sabotaged, I better say I feeling. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm betrayed. The problem with that is it puts people in a state of fear and panic, and you know what happens then. So why not try vulnerable feelings? As Brené Brown says more eloquently than most, vulnerable feelings connect. So if I said to Peter, I'm feeling isolated, I'm feeling like an outsider on my own team, it's more likely that he'll keep listening than if I'm saying you're sabotaging and undermining. Positive feelings encourage. So I could say, I'm feeling like an outsider on my team, but I'm so optimistic that once we talk about this, we will find a solution that we both feel committed to. Then, neutral diffuses. If I'm not ready to go vulnerable, I can say I'm concerned, I'm confused, I'm curious. One more thing I want to be sure to tell you in this segment is thoughts are not feelings. We have had more people say, I feel you're not doing your share, but if you can substitute the word think, it's not a feeling, and all of the impact of feeling descriptions fly away.
So we came about this one because people were saying, and we were facilitating, and they were saying things like, well, I feel like you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I feel like I don't care what you think. Well, I feel like you're an idiot. And it was, the word feeling is flying all around, but they were really thoughts, and in this case, very negative thoughts.
So let's look at step 2, pinpoint details.
So pinpoint details, because vague inflames, specifics instruct. So in that last role play, for example, let's take a look at, instead of saying, so you'll let a constant stream of people who report to me moan, whine, and complain, remember that was her language, instead she might say, yesterday, when I told the team we needed to be in the office 2 weeks,
2 days a week.
2 days a week, rather, Frank Gibson walked out saying he'd only talk to you.
Now,
so she gets down to something tangible that we can work with.
Now keep in mind that this is all generated around a real issue that these people need to be talking about. Step 3 that we introduce as part of our direct instruction. Share your own contribution to the problem.
So this one is a powerhouse. As a matter of fact, we will say to you right here and now, this is the most powerful move we know of in all of human communication. Now, it's powerful not in the sense that it puts somebody back into their place. It's powerful in the sense that it gets people to put their psychic defensive hands down and let that communication flow in. So in this case, Susan, what might your character say to share your part of the problem?
I might say, I know I'm part of the problem too, Pete, because first of all, there's something I'm doing with my team that's signaling them it's not safe to talk to me. And I need to do something about that.
Yes.
And also, I should have come to you earlier. I mean, you would have had to be a mind reader to know this was on my mind.
We didn't put this step in, by the way, until we interviewed thousands of people and mitigated thousands of conflicts and realized there are always two parties to every conflict. But the search for the part you play in a problem and the communication of it, it's the most disarming thing you can do. How can you fight with somebody who's owning their own accountability?
So, those are the first 3 steps. Let's talk about the 4th step, the co-creating a solution. And that means both people get a say in what the solution will be, and both people have something very different to do when that conversation's over. Now let's keep this all in the context of that's direct instruction. So remember, we have direct instruction virtually on what are the key skill sets, and then we have negative modeling and then positive modeling. What comes next, and we're going to give you a little chance to experience it, I think is the magic of virtual learning. What we do when we have a virtual, and we use Zoom as our platform, everyone at this point is divided into a breakout room. There are 8 people and 1 facilitator in every breakout room. Every breakout room is working on the scenario we just role-played for them, except for one thing. They play me before the conversation ever happened. So the instructions that we give them, and the instructions we are giving you right now, are this. Pretend you are Susan, preparing for that conversation with Peter. I want to show you the worksheet that we've designed for them and that we have given you today. For those of you who are coming in virtually, this workout sheet will be also in the chat. So, if you don't have a set of materials, raise your hand because Jacob can grab you one. Okay, everybody has them. So, take a peek at the last 2 pages, the worksheet. What we're going to do now, and we will only have time to go through 1 step. So what we're going to do is show you what we'd be doing. I want you to imagine yourself as a breakout room, okay? Your breakout room, and depending on the size of your organization, there are many breakout rooms. One of us will be your facilitator. If you're coming in remotely, you are a breakout room too. So, we say, and we are saying to you now, step 1 on the conscious conversation worksheet is opener, describe your feelings. So what we're going to do right now is, because we give 90 seconds in our virtual workshops, we are going to give you 30, because in a big room like this, it feels like forever if it's 90. I will give you 30 seconds to just think through, how would you take my character's opening comment, and instead of my saying, you are sabotaging my relationship with my team.
By the way, notice there's not even, she didn't even use an opener. She just laced right into my character.
How might you open it, get my permission to talk, and then share the feelings using one of the emotional literacy steps? So let me just pause for 30 seconds, give you a time to clear your head and get thinking, how might you fill in step 1? And if you're remote, we ask you to do the same thing. Step 1, convert you accusative into I feeling.
No.
Okay, so Jacob, are you checking in with any of those remote people? Okay, great, that's perfect. So let me ask in the room, and would somebody just give me an example of something that you think might be a different way to initiate that conversation?
This is your one chance to donate your body to science.
There will be no more. Thank you. Pia. Oh.
Would you repeat that for
Yes.
the virtual audience?
Yeah. It is very hard for me to be a supervisor here because of the strong power you have with my team. So that would be a very different start. Does anybody have any other languaging? Because what I'd like to show you is it's not like there's one right way. There are so many right ways. That is why when we do this virtually and when we do this remotely, every single person in that breakout room of 8, everyone says what they think.
We keep a queue of names. We go right down the queue. Everybody gets engaged. Everyone participates. If we call a person's name and they're not sure what to say, they can say pass.
Anybody can pass. But what we say is, it's not cheating to pull something you like that another person said and write it on your sheet. Because the goal is everyone walks out of this breakout room with something you could say. Yes, please. So let me say what, I want to paraphrase that for the
What is your
virtual
name?
world. Netta.
Netta, thank you.
So let me paraphrase that for the rest. So the comment that Netta said was...
Etta or Meta?
Netta.
Netta with an N.
Yeah. We would be, Netta said, could we go out for a coffee because there's something that's been weighing on my mind and I'd really like to talk to you about it. And so what Netta did was an introduction that really allowed her to connect. There were none of those angry push-away feelings, and that is how you initiated. And I think you said to get us on the same level.
And I like consuming something because all primates are more peaceful when they're eating or drinking, and they tend to be in fight mode when they're not. So that was good.
So we're not going to go through steps 2, 3, and 4, but I really want to be sure that you have a full circle view of this. So imagine yourself, your breakout room. Nobody is in the same space. You're in a breakout room, and we've just gone through one. And then we pause and say, okay, 90 seconds. Everybody write down how you would pinpoint details. People write it down. We go around the entire breakout room, and each person gives their pinpoint details. Once again, what they're doing is written practice of the direct instruction they've recently received. So
Then what we do is we come back to the main room and we get one brave volunteer, and we usually have to bribe them with one of our books, that's our recent book, Be Quiet, Be Heard, and we get one person to volunteer to dialogue with my character.
So picture this. You've just been in breakout rooms, 8 people to a breakout room, every breakout room working on the same exact conversation. And then we say, would one person please, using your notes, using your script, have this interaction with Peter? And we, at least so far, in the 50-ish times we've done this, we've always gotten someone to be willing to do it. And everyone watches that in rapt attention because they were just struggling with the same dialogue, and now they get to see someone virtually have it with Peter. Now, since we don't have the capacity to do that here, I want to show you what positive modeling is, because when we talked about adult learning theory, we said we do a negative model, then we do a direct instruction, then we do a positive model. So let us show you what the positive model might look like.
Now remember, my character did not go to any communication training. As a matter of fact, this character probably feels like he took that 20 years ago. He doesn't need this stuff. So I will still be that rather obnoxious character you saw earlier, because I don't want to make it look too easy. And we'll see if Susan can break through what she's presented with. So
And
here we go.
I'm going to try to take some of what Ned has said, I'm going to take some of what Pia said, and I'll include that in my round 2 positive modeling.
So here we go, take 2.
Hey, Pete.
Yes, Susan, what seems to be the problem?
Well, Peter, I'm struggling with some things, and I was hoping this might be an okay time to talk.
What's going on?
Well, I'm feeling like an outsider on my own team right now, and I'd like to explore that with you because I know that you have some pretty tight relationships with my team, and I'd like to get your input.
Well, so keep going. Let me hear.
Let me start with the pattern, and then I'll give you a recent example. So the pattern is that when people are upset with me, they tell you. I would say I'm the last to know. I'm guessing sometimes I don't even know at all. And an example happened just yesterday, which is why I think I'm here today. I had a meeting with my team and said that we needed to pick 2 days a week when everyone came into the office. And I actually think most of the team was relieved by that because everyone knows that we can barely do what we do without collaboration. Except for Frank Gibson. And Frank said, I told you, I'm not willing to come in. I'm going to talk to Peter from now on about my scheduling. And he just left the meeting.
He said that? That's miserable. Well, Susan, I'm glad we're talking about this because Frank is not the only one. I mean, I'd say over the last 6 months, there have been at least a half a dozen people who've come in to talk to me, and they say to me that they can't talk to you, that they're afraid to talk to you, that when they ask questions, they feel small at the end of it. And I've got this open door, so I stay open, I listen to them. But it concerns me because I want you to have some positive relationship with these people. I got a lot to do. I don't need to be spending my time talking to your people.
So let me just say to you that if I just keep going with my outline and he doesn't feel heard and understood, there's no way he's going to keep listening. So let me see if I can't capture the essence of what he wants me to understand. And so for you, Peter, you just care that people feel heard and understood, and they're not feeling heard and understood by me. And so it feels almost like a pressure cooker, and somebody needs to do that.
Exactly.
And I get that. And I want you to know, Pete, I see myself as part of this problem, too. I am not saying this problem is about you. I've contributed in huge ways.
What do you mean?
Well, for one, I think you're right. People, I don't know what it is that I've set up, but people don't feel they can come and talk to me. Clearly, I need to figure that out. And the other is that I wish I had told you sooner because you would have to be a mind reader to know this was even on my mind.
How long have you been aware of this?
I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months.
4, 5, 6 months and you never told me?
I know.
Why? I mean, am I so hard to talk to for crying out loud?
Hey, Pete, I have so many issues around confrontation, but that's another issue for another day.
Well, Sue, it's not healthy. You get heart palpitations, stomach distress. I mean, these things get you, Sue. When you feel them, it's important to put them out there.
Hey, Peter, that is a commitment I'm absolutely willing to make. I will commit to you right now that I will not harbor resentment. I will talk to you when there's an issue. And my other commitment is to talk to my people and to figure out what they need to see more of from me to feel safe talking.
Susan, what a relief to hear you say that. I mean, I think you sit your people down one by one and go through that kind of a dialogue. I think it can make a world of difference.
I am fully committed to do that.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like from me?
There's one thing, Susan, and it has to do with the way you're speaking to me right now. I mean, I don't know if you've had a brain transplant or what has gone down, but suddenly you're talking and I'm listening. And I think you'll agree there have been times when you've come in to talk to me and you start screaming and yelling and I start yelling and we both feel lousy at the end. Nothing gets accomplished. So if you can talk to me the way you're talking to me right now, I think we can really improve things.
I got to tell you, there's a part of me that wants to say, are you kidding me? After all of this, you're going to say that all of our problems are because I'm yelling and screaming, but I am not getting tripped up by that because I am having a conscious conversation. And so I know where I'm going, and I'm going to say something like, I'm fully committed to talking to you in ways that our conversation can always keep going.
Excellent, Susan. Then I think we're really going to improve things between us and you and the team. Excellent.
So then, Peter, let me tell you what I would... Oh, wait, but I didn't make my ask yet. That part was easy, but now I got to ask him. Here's what I would ask of you, Pete. If people come to you and they have complaints about me, please ask them if they've talked to me yet. And if they say they haven't, please let them know how much I want to hear from them directly. And if they're still uncomfortable, please let's all talk together.
It's reasonable. I mean, what you're asking is a reasonable request, Susan, and it worries me to put constraints over my open door policy. I worry people will stop coming through. But I think it's a good enough suggestion. Let's do it as a pilot. Let's see how it goes for a month or two, and then see how it works. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea.
You know, you're not as bad as I thought when you came in earlier.
So that is one round. Now, I want you to know, we did that for you on this day, but I want you to, as you keep this virtual learning in your mind, this is something that one of the participants does using what they came up with in their breakout room.
And then the whole group critiques what she did and the extent to which she thinks. We do the poll again. Problem solved, relationship strengthened, trust deepened. And then we analyze the scene using that as the standard. Did she achieve that?
So now that you've experienced a bit of our content, now that you've experienced what the practice component looks like, let's talk about our full system of interactive virtual learning. It starts with self-paced videos. So all of the content is in these self-paced videos. And we worked with an incredible organization in Washington, D.C. that turned our video content into interactive play. It's really unbelievable. So there's interaction on the front and the back end. There's an interactive workbook that keeps allowing people to apply it in their own life. So phase one, self-paced videos. Phase two, the live virtual workshops, and we showed you a little bit about what that's like. And finally, we do survey-based follow-up. So here's what we're wanting to learn in our surveys. We want to figure out how to sustain the change. So we do a survey to measure whatever the outcome goals were of that particular course. So it would be different depending on the course. Let us just show you a real quick example of a survey question. So since we looked at breakthrough conflict, as a result of this learning event, do you feel better prepared for, I'll read it to you because I know you can't see it too well. Oh, wait. Not too bad. Do you feel better prepared to raise issues that solve problems and strengthen relationships? Do you feel better prepared to listen with curiosity more than defensiveness? Do you feel better prepared to recognize people for what you appreciate about them? So those are just 3 survey questions from the breakthrough conflict because those are our operational goals. Then, in terms of sustaining the change, we follow up the survey by meeting with our design team. And we say to them, let's look at the survey together and decide what comes next. It usually follows with figuring out where to put additional practice.
So for example, when we were working with the Pew organization, by the way, those of you from foreign countries, the Pew organization is one of the few organizations on the planet that our divided nation, the congressional people, both agree and both can really say they have the facts. They said to us, The data seems clear. We need something, we need a program in upstream communication.
Have you ever even heard of that word before? Because we hadn't. Upstream feedback. And they said, based on your survey results, we need to think of a way that everyone in our organization can give feedback to their manager.
So we said, we don't have a program in upstream feedback. Have you tried to find out if there's one out there? And this sweet head of HR said to me, Peter, we are Pew Research. Yes.
Of course we researched it.
And I would have bought it. I would have begged for it. I would have done anything. There is nothing out there.
So we designed a program called Upstream Feedback for them. That's just an example of how we can do a survey and say, how are people responding to this? What did they learn? What didn't they learn? And what can we do next? And finally, we do, in organizations, coaching, and then we can do trainer training so that they can internally have the skill set to do this on and don't need the Glazers anymore. So let me do a just quick wrap up and then see if you have any questions for us. So what we wanted to show you today was how we could take the field of communication and turn it into what are the micro behaviors that people need. And I have to say most of our work is with leaders, that leaders need in order to master communication. Then we turn that into direct instruction, modeling, and practice with feedback. Then we do surveys and design follow-up from that. All of this, 100% of it, is done virtually. And although we have come back more recently live, we are deep believers in the power of virtual learning. And I'm a believer, and we probably won't have time to explore that right now, but we have a couple days to talk. I really believe that when we measure the learning in our virtual workshops, it is stronger, it is deeper, and it lasts longer than even on site. So, thank you very much.
Oh, we have a couple of minutes for questions if there are any.
I know. Okay, so let's start with questions and then we'll do our final wrap up. Netta. Oh, wait. You know what? I think what we should do now, Netta, I'm going to let you have this and I will share with Peter. Okay.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I've been waiting all day to hear you guys talk.
Oh,
I have a sort of a theoretical, conceptual question. So I'm a professor at George Mason University, and my program is instructional design. So I teach instructional designers how to design instruction, all the stuff that you talked about in terms of, you know, modeling and role-playing. I teach an advanced instructional design course. We also teach andragogy, Malcolm Knowles' book for adult learning, because in DC area, most of our students work for government contractors. They practice instructional design in corporate workplace learning organizations. So I haven't ventured into emotional intelligence or things like that yet, but here's my conceptual conflict. When I teach the advanced instructional design course, I sort of go into a grounded design approach, going from theory to practice. So I love learning theory, and I go from objectivism / behaviorism, but then I talk about cognitivism and constructivism and social constructivism and connectivism. The issue I have with the way your role plays are very compelling and effective, but role playing and authentic scenarios and scenario e-learning and co-creating a solution and adult learning theory, experiential learning, self-directed learning is not behaviorist and should not be, in my opinion. I mean,
should not be considered behaviorism or behaviors?
It should not be considered under behaviorism and mastery learning and direct instruction. This is where I'm having the conflict, is when you design constructivist learning environments using scenario-based learning or authentic learning, which is what you guys are doing, essentially, it's too scripted. My question is that you are using behaviorism, sorry, behavior modeling comes from behaviorism and objectivism.
It does. Absolutely.
But if you put it in the context of authentic learning and constructivism, it ain't that. I mean, it becomes more where you allow adult learners to construct their own knowledge, to co-create. You don't do direct instruction. You don't script the solutions for them. You allow them to collaboratively come up with solutions. Sorry, that was my question.
Netta, there is no way I can't wait to talk to you. And I have 100 things to say, and then I want to hear what you have to say.
Hey, thank you guys for being here.
So thank you all for choosing this time, and I hope we get to talk with you more. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.